The last woolly mammoths on Earth were still alive when the Great Pyramid of Giza had already been standing for centuries. Let that sink in for a second. We picture mammoths and pyramids as being separated by some unimaginable gap of time. They weren't, and that's not even the craziest animal on this list. Number 1 didn't go extinct in some ice age. It died out in a zoo in 1936. There's actual video of it. Here's the thing about extinct animals. Our brains file them all under one folder. Dinosaurs, ancient, doesn't matter. But dinosaurs disappeared 65 million years before a single human ever existed. Not one person ever saw a living dinosaur. These animals, completely different story. These are creatures that early humans hunted, painted on cave walls, got hunted by, lived next to, shared caves with, and in a few cases, straight up wiped out ourselves, sometimes without even realizing what we were doing until it was already done. So let's count down 10 animals your ancestors actually looked in the eye, and I promise, one of these went extinct because of a genuinely dumb human mistake. Number 10, the Irish elk. Which, fun fact, wasn't Irish and wasn't really an elk. It was the biggest deer that ever lived, and it was carrying antlers up to 12 feet across. That's wider than the animal's own body. Imagine strapping a couch to your head and then trying to walk through a dense forest without knocking yourself unconscious every 10 minutes. And here's the part that gets me. Humans clearly found this thing fascinating too. It shows up in cave art across Europe, drawn over and over, which means somebody sat there thousands of years ago, looked at this walking furniture disaster and thought, yeah, I need to draw that. Scientists still argue about whether those antlers eventually helped kill the species off. Too heavy, too expensive to grow, evolution basically betting big and losing. Number 9 is one you actually already know, the woolly mammoth. But stick with me, because the fact most people don't know is the wild part. Most mammoths died out around 10,000 years ago, but a small isolated population survived on Wrangel Island, way up near Siberia, until roughly 4,000 years ago, which means mammoths were still walking around after humans had already built the pyramids. We picture them as this ancient, frozen-in-time creature. In reality, they were basically recent history wearing a fur coat. Number 8, Glyptodon. Basically an armadillo the size of a small car, wearing a shell like a tank crossed with a turtle. And here's the detail that gets me every time. Once these things died out, early South Americans reportedly used the empty shells as actual shelter. Flip it over, crawl in, done. That's the prehistoric version of finding a free tiny house just sitting in a field, fully furnished, no rent, no landlord. Number 7, the cave bear. Bigger than a modern grizzly, and it had a serious real estate problem with early humans, because both species wanted the exact same caves. Some researchers have even found bear bones arranged in patterns that might suggest ritual behavior from Neanderthals. Might. That one's still debated, so don't go repeating it as fact. But even the possibility is wild. Did we worship this animal before we started literally competing with it for shelter? Number 6 is another one you probably know, Smilodon, the so-called saber-toothed tiger. Quick correction before we go further, it's not a tiger. Different branch of the cat family entirely, so stop calling it that in your head right now. I'm serious. Smilodon fossils have been pulled out by the thousands from the La Brea tar pits, which sit under modern-day Los Angeles. People are literally driving over these bones on their morning commute and have zero idea. And here's the twist about those famous fangs. They were actually pretty fragile, built for one single precise killing bite, not for brute force or fighting back. Its biggest weapon was also its biggest weakness, which feels like a life lesson, honestly. Number 5, the woolly rhino, Ice Age Europe and Asia, and it shows up getting actively hunted in cave paintings. I want you to actually sit with this image for a second, because most of us picture a rhino as this bald, gray African animal standing in dry grass. Not this one. This one had a full coat of fur, basically a fully insulated tank on legs, built for snow instead of savanna. Number 4, the dire wolf, bigger and heavier jawed than the gray wolf you know today. And if you're in the US, this one's basically in your backyard. Thousands of dire wolf skeletons have come out of those same La Brea tar pits, right alongside Smilodon. Same tar, same trap, same era. You've probably even seen this name pop up in the news recently, because there's been real buzz about scientists attempting to bring the dire wolf back from extinction. Genuinely, go look that up after this, because the story is moving fast and it's stranger than fiction. Number 3, Diprotodon. If you're watching this in Australia, this one's yours. Think of it as a wombat that decided one day to be the size of a car. Some Aboriginal oral traditions in rock art may actually be describing this exact animal, which means this isn't some cold, forgotten fossil story. It's a memory that got passed down, generation after generation, inside living culture. Number 2, the giant ground sloth, bigger than an elephant, and it stood up on its hind legs to strip entire trees bare, which is not the mental image sloth usually gives you. Here's the proof that humans weren't just nearby. We have actual fossilized footprints in New Mexico, where human tracks physically overlap sloth tracks. Same ground, same moment. That's not a theory pieced together from bones. That's a footprint stepping directly on top of another footprint, frozen in time.
And that brings us to number 1, the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger. And this is the one I teased at the very start, because this didn't go extinct in some ice age thousands of years ago. The last confirmed thylacine died in a zoo in Tasmania in 1936. There's actual filmed footage of the last one alive, pacing back and forth in its enclosure, and you could watch it right now if you search for it. Here's the dumb human mistake I promised you at the start of this video. This animal wasn't wiped out by climate change or a meteor or some ancient catastrophe none of us could control. It was hunted into extinction because of a bounty system. Colonial settlers were literally paid cash per thylacine for every one they killed, based on a mistaken belief that it was slaughtering their livestock. Later research suggests it probably wasn't even the main culprit. We didn't lose this animal to deep time. We lost it to paperwork and bounty money less than 100 years ago, inside the lifetime of people whose grandkids might still be alive today. So here's what I actually want you to take from this. We treat extinction like it's something that happens somewhere far away, in some ancient world we can't touch or relate to, something that belongs in a museum, behind glass, safely separated from us by millions of years. But the mammoth was still alive after we'd already finished building the pyramids, and the thylacine has actual video footage that could exist in the exact same reel as old home movies of your own great-grandparents. Extinction isn't always ancient history. Sometimes it's recent. Sometimes it happened in living memory, in black and white footage, in a zoo enclosure. And sometimes it's something we caused ourselves, on purpose, for a bounty check, and just didn't think hard enough about until it was already too late to undo.